Seattle's own Craig Gass has had roles on King of Queens, Sex and the City, Las Vegas, and Law and Order. As a stand-up comic, Craig has headlined coast to coast and done big stadium shows with bands like Metallica and Alice in Chains. Craig's impressions of famous people are so good that even the people he impersonates have been fooled and like hanging out with him. In the new year, Craig is doing a tour of theaters nationwide, and on Saturday, January 18th, you can see Craig Gass at the Pantages in Tacoma. Tickets just went on sale. We'll have all the information at bobrivers.com. Craig Gass, welcome home. How are you, bud?
The only place I still feel nervous when I come in. I gotta show my stuff. I really gotta come in, and it's amazing how nervous I would be when I would come in and do radio with you guys, and I've done it so much all over the world that it's nothing.
Well, we're nothing. This is nothing.
But
this is a piece of cake for you. By the way, I'm nervous because Craig Gass started as an intern on our show, rose to the heights of radio fame, worked on the Howard Stern show,
yes,
worked on all these TV shows, and I just watched your career take off. And then just a few years ago, I saw you walk into a comedy club on a amateur, and it wasn't an amateur night. It was, what do they have it when anybody comes? Open mic night, and walked in and demolished the crowd. Everyone was on the floor and couldn't believe it. And I was like, wow, that's that guy. I knew that guy. And then you, for some reason, you think we helped you get started. So that's nice.
It was my first start, and I just thought, this is the funniest guy. I just thought you were the funniest guy, and I had no idea how big you were in radio. You took me to my first radio convention, which is called Boot Camp.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
And everyone at Boot Camp was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And I started making a lot of friends. And every gig, I would just they'd go, "Hey, would you be willing to call into our show regularly as Al Pacino or Sam Kinison?"
We radio people, we're bloodsuckers that way.
Well,
but you did it, right?
And I'd say, "Will you give me some CDs?" And they go, "Sure, we'll give you some CDs." And I would get CDs and DVDs, and I was so happy getting all these CDs and DVDs. And then I was broke, so I started a racket.
So wait a minute, you still weren't doing stand-up comedy. You were still basically a guy who does Were you? When did you? Because I know initially you were kind of incorrigible.
Yes,
you were difficult to work with.
Well, I was doing a lot of narcotarcotics.
Well, me too.
Yeah.
In a previous decade.
You think you two would have got along better.
Yeah.
No. The timing was off.
If you think we're going to the same guy.
Yeah. If we had met 10 years ago, we would have met at the door with the window in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But all right. So yeah, that was going on. But you started going, like, when you started, did you do open mics and stand up and work your way in?
Same time. 93 is when I started working with you and doing stand-up comedy at the same time.
And this is what I remember. It was an amazing time in Seattle. Grunge was happening.
Yeah.
And I would run into you out at some show, and you'd be opening for someone or doing a show, and I was like, "You go, all right, good luck." And secretly, I was saying, "Real loser."
Everyone was saying that,
but I didn't know that you had it. I can't tell. By the way, I can't tell when people are doing drugs now.
Yeah,
if you're sober, right?
Yeah, 9 years. It'll be 9 years in a couple weeks. I'm almost there.
Still time to screw this up.
I don't need it notarized.
Here,
but I'm saying, like, I used to kind of like when you were one with the spores, you kind of knew, and now I have no idea. Like, someone will tell me they have a problem, I'll be, "Oh, really? I have no clue."
Yeah, I know. I can feel. I can see it. From a block away, I can see stuff going on. I can see a handshake and go, "Whoa, I know what that handshake was."
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So you have a drug dar.
Yeah. I'm still keen to it, but I always, as far as doing voices, I always had that ability to do voices because I grew up in a family that is deaf, which sounds like a joke, but it's not. My whole
so you had to mouth. Well, you had to clearly, did they lip read?
Right, yeah. And
so you looked at famous people's lips and you learned?
No.
Well, I couldn't learn how to talk for my family. I learned how to talk by copying all the voices I heard on TV. So I was always able to mimic in a kind of voice that I hear. And
so as a kid, what are you like? Are you watching Gilligan?
Yeah, I'm watching the Fonz, Muhammad Ali.
You chose who you wanted to be like.
Yeah. And I mimicked those guys, and I never got an accent from the Bronx. And trying to explain to comedians that my family is deaf, they're not the most sensitive people. I was at this summer. I'm at a comedy club in New York. and I see this comedian talking to Tracy Morgan, and he's pointing at me, and he's like, Craig's family's dead. And Tracy's looking at me going, yeah. And then he walked over to me, and he goes, so, Craig, your family's like retarded, right? And I was like, retarded?
They're deaf.
No, they're deaf. What are you talking about? Okay, so they deaf. So
By the way, he's not the most PC person.
No, not at all.
I think officially he's been voted least.
Yeah,
he's the least.
Yeah, I think his next line was, so they wear football helmets and stuff? And I was like, what are you talking? No, they're deaf. They just can't hear you.
He's picking on you.
So can they see? Yes. What kind of deaf people have you met who can't see? So I started doing stand-up.
Everyone in your family was deaf?
Yeah, my mom, my dad, and my
Was
sister.
it genetic?
My mom was born completely deaf from a birth defect. My dad was born with all of his hearing and then lost over 80% of it when he was a kid. He got into an accident that popped out his eardrums. So he had to go to deaf schools for the rest of his life. Where I met my mom, and they went to all deaf high school. They fell in love. They had my sister first, who's born with my mom's genes, completely deaf, and then I was born with my dad's genes with all my hearing.
Wow. And you
Did
know
I
what?
just over-explain that?
Yeah, no, it's
perfect.
very good.
Perfect.
And by the way, it's very. You're sharing something really intimate because, I remember when I was a kid, there was a deaf kid in our school, and people thought that they were
Right,
learning challenged.
Oh.
To use the R word, but they thought that they were because they couldn't speak as clearly. And the whole thing about it was how you speak really has a lot to do with what people think of how smart you are.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your parents both went to an all-deaf high school. Do you remember their fight song? Neither do they. Okay, thank you. We're here all week. I'm sorry, but only because I love you.
That's
and I know-
still,
By
that's
the way-
still way better than Tracy Morgan.
The best deaf jokes I've ever heard are from deaf people.
Of course they are, yeah.
I took my sister out to dinner a few months ago, and she goes, do you want to hear a good joke? And I said,
And
yeah.
she's signing this to-
while
yeah.
she's saying that to me. Do you want to hear a good joke? And I said, yeah. And she goes, me too. And I was like, oh my God! Oh my God! Where'd you
You have to
get
just,
that?
Me too.
you have to just kiss her at that point.
Oh.
You just gotta just.
And she kind of waved it off like, that joke. And I
It's
was
an
like,
old joke.
I
That's a
throw those
knock
away.
joke to a deaf person.
oh, that was the greatest joke. But yeah,
neat.
I come in here and I get nervous. I have memories in this neighborhood of it's not related to radio, but I had a health scare. I always a hypochondriac. I self-diagnosed myself as having colon cancer
Oh no, on the internet?
on 60 Minutes. I watched
Oh,
60
no.
Minutes.
Right.
I was living in West Seattle, and I'm watching 60 Minutes, and they have a story about colon cancer, and they say there's 3 symptoms for colon cancer. I had one of the 3.
Only one.
Yeah, but it was a big one.
Okay.
There was blood when I went to the bathroom, which was really embarrassing. And it was such an intimate thing that I didn't share it with anyone. I'm living with a girl that I'm dating for a few years at the time. So she comes home, and I say, hey, we need to talk. And I sit her down, and I said, I am dying.
You just jumped right to I am dying from I have a bleeding hemorrhoid.
You could have been pushing too hard.
It was a couple hours from the time I'd seen the 60 Minutes, and I'd really been
Right.
thinking
Right,
about
but
it.
you have paranoia then too.
Well, he was working days with Jim Rose eating light bulbs.
Yeah.
Part of the freak show. That helped a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told her I'm dying, and she said, "What do you mean you're dying?" I said, "I have colon cancer," and she goes, "How do you know?" And I go, "I watched 60 Minutes," and she goes, "So what?" And I go, and I realize I can't say at this moment I have one of the 3 symptoms. So I said, "Look, I have all the symptoms."
You lied.
Right.
Well, because I thought
You embellished.
She'll call me out on it if I tell her it's just one. And she says, "Have you seen a doctor?" And I said, "I don't need to see a doctor. I know something is really, really wrong with me." And she cried. I cried. She convinces me to go see a doctor.
That's good.
I set up an appointment in this neighborhood.
Oh, so that's why this neighborhood is spooky for you.
Yeah, and the guy says, he goes, "Well, what's going on? Why are you here today, Craig?" And I go, "Well, I have colon cancer." And he says, "How do you know?" And I said, "I watched 60 Minutes." And he said, "How old are you?" I'm in my 20s at the time. And he goes, "Okay, take off your
Yeah, it's
pants."
time, yeah.
And I didn't expect that. I didn't realize.
take your word for it?
Yeah, I thought maybe some blood test.
Sure.
Yeah,
like draw
sure.
some blood from my arm.
You don't have to actually look there, do you?
Yeah, that didn't even. And he said, "Take off your pants and your underwear and get on the table on all 4s." And I said, "Okay." And he leaves. He comes back in, and I'm just waiting for him. And I had a really long shirt on, and he said, "Can you please hike the shirt up?" And
That's demeaning, right?
It is demeaning. Yeah. And I hear the gloves come on, and he examines me. And then I remember feeling so awful when he said, "All right, I'll be back," and he just leaves. After doing that to me, he just leaves me.
No immediate, from early indications are
right.
Yeah, we're going to take it to a booth review now because the refs disagree on what's in there.
Well, he had a German Shepherd in the next room. He had to take a look at.
Go ahead and put your clothes on, and he just leaves me on all fours in the room. And then he comes back in and
to stand up, put your stuff on.
Nothing. He just leaves
hold that position. I'm going to send a few more people in.
And he comes back in, starts asking me questions about my diet. What's your diet? And I go, I've mostly fast food. And he goes,
nachos, wings.
Yeah. And he goes, all right. Well, Craig, you got hemorrhoids. And he said, but if you literally eat one apple a day, you're going to be fine. You just need more fiber in your diet.
Just eat an apple a day. All right. Who had bleeding hemorrhoids?
Hemorrhoid.
Well, the
the
embarrassing thing is going home to my girlfriend who's called her family and to say, hey, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, guess who has hemorrhoids? And third of all, guess who knows what it's like to be touched by a dude? I do. And
that was still a new thing for you too. Yeah,
it's still
in your 20s.
Well, Spike and I have hung out a few times since then.
Okay. So you still haven't told her you don't have cancer, though.
Are you
to this day, right?
Yeah, to this day.